Welcome to Unbind with Bindable. I'm your host, Jocelyn Getson, Chief Growth Officer at Bindable. Evolving customer expectations are accelerating at a pace of change, or really accelerating the pace of change in insurance today. So old school thinking won't cut it in a digital age. It's clear that the insurance organizations who have continued to invest in innovation to improve their products, their service, delivery, really have an enormous competitive advantage in our hardening market today. Today, I am excited to be speaking with one such innovative organization, which is GradGuard. GradGuard has actually been on the forefront of embedded insurance experiences for over a decade, which I think is actually longer than we have been using the term embedded insurance. So really a pioneer in the industry. And joined by John Fees, co-founder and managing director of GradGuard, which helps students and their families protect their college investments through tuition and renters insurance programs via embedded offers within the college enrollment process. So today you have, I believe, John, partnered with 500 universities nationwide and continue to help serve nearly 1 million students and families. So thank you so much. Welcome to the show, John.
Thanks, Jocelyn. I've enjoyed your listening to your other broadcasts, and think you've got a great perspective on the industry and how it's emerging.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I will pay you later on that front. But I was excited to talk to you. We always have some really interesting dialogue whenever we get together. And I think GradGuard, honestly, is a little under the radar in the traditional insurtech space, and one that, will certainly be changing that a bit today. But I'm really excited to kind of dig into the story. So starting at the beginning, how did you actually find yourself in insurance?
Well, so I've spent my career really at the intersection of technology companies, financial services, and higher education. Higher education is just one segment of the affinity markets, but it's really something that was something that I had a passion for. And Bill Sunnison, one of the co-founders of Bindable, and I had really thought carefully about, we built a really successful business prior to founding GradGuard. And what we really wanted to do is say, how do we help families and students achieve the real potential of their education? And, before getting to the embedded piece, the real innovation here in the insurtech world, sometimes it requires a combination of both the right product at the right time. And when we started the business, the right products didn't exist. And Bill Sunnison, who really had deep insurance background, I had tech background and a higher ed background. What we knew is that families were unaware of the risk of paying for college. And although the media paid all the attention to the student loan crisis, the reality is that the student loans weren't the problem. I know that's almost controversial to say because the media so embraces that. The real problem is that students who do not graduate, 80% of them default on their student loans. So the real problem in this country is the fact that lots of things get in the way of graduating from college. And when you think about it being the second largest expense in your lives, you'd say, wow, we need to take a look at that risk and build products to help reduce that risk and mitigate it. And so we did. We built some fantastic products with some terrific partners. We basically built GradGuard as an MGA, and we thought we build it, people will come. Tuition insurance, isn't it the best thing ever?
Well, I mean, I think it's fantastic, and it's actually something that I wasn't familiar with, prior to really, working for Bindable and getting to know the program directly. And I will be more familiar with it in a couple of years as my children get into college. I'll be very familiar. But one of the things that's interesting is embedded insurance. A lot of the times we think of it as products that customers are already educated on. Travel insurance, maybe it's a mortgage or a homeowner's insurance during a mortgage application. So less education and more just relevant time of offer. How do you solve that awareness and education piece on your product while in the middle of another journey, really?
Yeah, no, it's a really great question, great observation. I think that it kind of starts with our mission, which is our mission is to help schools educate and protect their students from the risk of college life, right? So let's break that down. How do we help schools? So schools have an obligation to promote greater financial literacy. We could say GradGuard can, but without involving a partner like a university, like NYU or Princeton or Harvard, with a commitment to educate, right, and be transparent. And what that means is the universities, through our technology and our APIs, basically disclose their refund policies. And basically the language is universities do not provide 100% refunds for tuition, academic fees, or housing, but GradGuard's tuition insurance can. And
Wow.
so then they're given an active choice, just like travel insurance, to say yes or no. Yes, I accept responsibility, or no, I decline the coverage. And the best part is when schools embrace that type of transparency and willingness to adopt a protection program like GradGuard, it is also the most affordable way to provide coverage. The best way to get insurance is when somebody gives it to you. The second best way is when it's at a point of purchase.
Right. And it cuts down obviously on the acquisition costs, but to your point, it really brings home the risk as they're making that massive investment that they need to
Yeah.
protect what they're putting into it. And one of the things that kind of stands out to me is that partnership, right? Embedded can only be successful with it's strong partnerships, and some of that can be the technology, it can be the distribution partner. I mean, what do you think some of the key components to creating a profitable
Yeah,
program
profitable
are?
is the key. And I love Bindables. I love your podcast because it's really about writing the right business at the right time and in a profitable way. I think that when we first launched, we had real difficulty in because we've got adverse selection. When our direct consumer programs really attracted people that had real vulnerabilities and high utilization. And so the key for us is to be embedded with a partner. Now, we don't pay schools, nor do I think it's right to pay schools. It's not like travel insurance and American Airlines, who basically makes a lot of money from selling travel insurance. The truth is, schools want everybody to be protected at the lowest cost possible. And so if we had to pay schools to originate this, it wouldn't make any sense. It would just drive the cost up, and then you get lower participation. So the magic, I think, of our program is that it's really the most frictionless way to enroll people in a protection program that's highly relevant to their life stage.
Yep.
I always say, if Harvard doesn't give you 100% refunds, don't expect Arizona State to. And I think that's really the reality. And COVID helped expose that reality. A lot of times you think nonprofit institutions are going to give you your money back. That's just not going to happen. In fact,
Right.
National Student Clearinghouse, which is the national database of most student achievement measures in the university sector, released just a few weeks ago that 113,000 students withdrew or took a leave of absence. This is in 2021. So
Right.
113,000, just to give you some sense of the scale, if they each lost $20,000 for that semester, 20,000 might be low, might be high, depends on a public or private institution. That's over $2 billion of losses to families. And that might disrupt their education to the extent that they might not be able to afford to re-enroll. Yeah. And what we're trying to do is help students get a do-over. So
I think that's fantastic. And you mentioned COVID in context to how it's gained exposure for dropping out. For how has that impacted you? I mean, we look at across the board in anything, whether you're auto, your home, any commercial line, cyber, et cetera. I referenced a hardening market earlier on, which is the losses are getting higher, the protection gap's getting larger.
Yep.
How did COVID impact your coverage or
COVID,
your clients?
COVID was very disruptive to our renters business, specifically because there are 3 million students that live on college campuses. Many of those students were prohibited from being on campus, or universities went to single occupancy. So that was very harmful to our business on that side of the business. On the tuition side, we have a great insurance partner. We're the MGA, but Allianz, which is the largest world travel insurance provider in the world, they also decided to cover COVID. And so students who withdrew because of becoming ill with COVID were covered under our policy, even though global pandemics were excluded from the actual coverage. So I think, first of all, have a great insurance partner makes a lot of sense. This is the right thing to do to cover these students. Students generally did not have the types of losses because of COVID, but there were some other unintended consequences. Those other unintended consequences included mental health issues. And again, our policy covers mental health the same way we do physical health. And so that's another innovation that GradGuard provides, but it only can work because we insure students at University of Iowa to Purdue and Indiana, NYU, to schools in Boston and Texas and everywhere in between. If we only insured one school like NYU, I don't
Yep.
think we could have covered COVID. I don't think we could do this. The spread of risk at the end of the day, when it comes to distribution, really, really matters. And so who your customers are, in our case, 20 million college students and their families in the country, really, really matters. And I think with Bindable, I think that story is true as well, because you have all these specialty populations and affinity groups that really give insurers a better way to address their insurance needs and the risks they're facing. And
Yeah.
I think that COVID exposed those models that didn't have the right coverage or the right spread of risk. And for us, it really demonstrated the value of a network and a platform. Because at the end of the day, GradGuard's much more than a product company. We sell 2 products right now, but we're really a platform, and we insure more students than anybody in the country at this time.
Well, and that's what's so impressive. I mean, you're talking tens of millions of students working with hundreds and hundreds of universities. Let's talk about scale. So one of the things, not just from the insurance product, but even just from the tech and integration side, are there lessons that you can share from your experience, some of the pitfalls, the challenges? Because sometimes it's like you win the business and you ring a bell, you high five each other, and then you're like, okay, the real work's beginning now. So what has that process been like, that scaling? And has it gotten easier?
Well, you need good partners, right? So I think at the end of the day, we've built our own proprietary systems and APIs, and the APIs integrate in the world. But I think a couple things that make this moment different is that you have to have technology partnerships and a view towards technology that allows you to abandon what may have worked up until one scale. So we're doubling the size of the business this year. And when you look at the number of policyholders we have got to be able to scale and then collect that data in unique ways. It's easy to just keep building without ever addressing the underlying data architecture. So we've done that a couple of different times over the last decade, just really to be able to manage our own data sets. What that helps us do, though, is it informs the next generation of insurance products, because we know how we've sourced business all over the country, by university, by state, by product, right? And we can now create some insights that I think will inform kind of the next generation of insurance products that we intend to evolve to. So.
Well, I always think that, and well, not me, I think we all realize that embedded, typically the conversion rate is much higher. There's a customer, as you said, point of sale, point of need.
Yeah.
Do you have experience? Have you ever tried to market it outside of the embedded, just to kind of compare and contrast?
So tuition insurance is something you've never heard of, right? First of all, most families, they're going to college for the first time. It's the first major large purchase they're making. They don't even know what the refund policies of the schools are. Same with living on campus. Oh, I've never thought about my son or daughter not being covered by my homeowner's insurance policy. But most likely their homeowner's insurance is impractical. It has a high deductible. If you file a claim, your rates are going to go up, your premiums rates will go up. So it's really an impractical solution, even if there's coverage. And the truth is, most times for most homeowners policies, they're no longer covering students living on campus in the way that they did 20 or 30 years ago. So it's absolutely true that the adoption rate's higher through an embedded process. It's to me the single best way to help fulfill our mission, which is to really provide a risk transfer at an affordable price. The key isn't whether or not people need our products. I think this is true for all of Bindable's clients and probably other platforms. There's a need. The question is it priced right? Is it something that everyone can afford? And I tell you, Bill Sunnis and I, our mission was to make tuition insurance and renter's insurance universally available without any gotchas. I mean, we have college age students in our families, and both Bill and I were really transformed. Our lives were transformed by education, but it's not like we didn't have bad things happen to us and our friends. And so we wanted to reduce that. It was one thing when Bill was at Marquette and I was at Arizona State, I was paying $500 a semester, right? Today, there's no college that's $500 a semester. You might be able to take one class for $500, but that's even probably unlikely. So I think that at the end of the day, founders and insurtechs that are out there, embedded is the best way to fulfill a mission of helping reduce the risk. right? The truth
And
is,
helping educate, helping educate at that point, because even if they decide not to move forward, at least they know more about what is covered and what's not. And if they want to self-insure, okay, but yeah.
yeah,
I
I think that when it comes to education, they need to treat consumers, and this is for everybody in your audience, should look at paying for college just like any other large investment. It's deserving of real coverage and protection, and GradGuard's thankful for the opportunities to do that. The embedded way, anytime you see an insurance offer that's embedded, to me, that is a company that demonstrates they care, because more than likely, they're not only trying to educate you, but they're also trying to provide coverage that's either got some unique elements to it or is more affordable than something direct to consumer. Direct to consumer, not only do you have to pay for the extra acquisition costs, but you typically will have adverse selection leading to other costs that are baked into that particular program. One of the unique things I know about the Bindable platform is there's unique pricing that's only available for certain groups, right? It's not like if you go shop for auto insurance, you're just going to get a bunch of, not on your sites, but on other sites, you just get lead gen calls.
Yeah.
Nobody can bind online the way you can. And the same with us, by the way. I mean, GradGuard, it's all about being able to bind online. I mean, when you sell product on an average for $170, if you know,
you don't
I always
want to
say
spend
we
the
have
cost.
failed. Yeah, we have failed if you have to call us to ask questions. All right. And not that we're not here to answer your questions, because we have a whole national agency here to really help people buy their first policies. Many times, GradGuard's their first insurance company that a young student or young adult's buying. So.
Right. Yeah. It's their entry point into insurance, which
Yeah.
is a lifelong experience. And that's one of the things I always like to ask is, are there any, other than Bindable and GradGuard, are there any insurtechs or MGAs, whether it's product or tech, that you are keeping your eye on, that you're seeing? And it could be any line of business, anyone that you think is getting it right, or that you're putting
I
some.
think Allianz gets a lot right. Allianz Global Partners out of Richmond, they do a lot right. They have event insurance. They probably don't speak at many conferences. They're one of our most important partners. They're our underwriter for tuition insurance, but they just do things right. So they're an example. You know, I think I'm a little bit tired of all the different variations of the cyber policies that are out there. I'm a little bit tired of seeing some of the other types of specialty coverages. I mean, I was at Costco the other day. I love Costco. I'm a great member. I've got 5 kids, so Costco is where we shop. You know, I see their pet insurance stuff, but I mean, why am I going to buy pet insurance in a store? I mean, I just give me a relevant offer on my app. Give me a relevant offer when I log into their website. And I think that relevance and timing are everything. And the key, though, is that trusted person, that trusted brand, whether it be NYU or Harvard or any of the universities we work with, or whether it be one of Bindable partners. That trusted brand at the right moment in time makes the product really satisfy the needs of a consumer. So
It does. I mean, I think especially when when the channels have so much data, even Costco, whatever the retailer is, whatever the university is, they have so much data. So catching you when you're purchasing maybe your pet food is more relevant than walking in and just buying it off the shelf. And that's, I think, where we're the goal for everybody right now is to get it at the right time. And on that note, like what recommendations do you have? It's a volatile market in every way, whether it's economics or climate change, et cetera. So many things are happening in our universe that the companies always have to have their eyes up and looking at on the horizon. How do you think about future proofing, and what recommendations do you have for where other leaders should be investing or focused? What strategies should they be looking at to help, air quotes, future proof? Any advice there?
Wow, that's a great question. I tend to be pretty paranoid generally about anybody's competitive advantage. But I do think a brand like Costco, I think brands that really respect their customers is a way to future-proof. So I always like to say our renters insurance program does not have a electronics limitation. Most renters insurance, like Lemonade knows, they all have a $1,500 electronics limitation. when we design our program, we can't have a gotcha like that. When a student's backpack is stolen with its computer and iPad and HP calculators and everything else, you can't have a limitation. That's a gotcha. So my fundamental recommendation for this industry is that do what you say you're going to do. Make certain your products don't have gotchas. Over deliver, under promise, simple things like that. And to me, brands like Costco, brands like GradGuard, brands like Bindable are doing that. And to me, the industry is well served. This is an industry that's served by trust. And I think the insurtechs that have basically, had glitter around them are nice. They've forced the industry to think carefully about the user experience, think carefully about coverages, make it easier, make it simpler. That's all good. But what they haven't figured out is really how to demonstrate that the products work for the insurance needs of their customers. So
so it's always putting that customer in the center. You're right. It's like any relationship. You got to put that person at the center, and it all starts to fall into place and promises for long-term relationship, which is exactly what we're looking for with customers. Yeah. Well, listen, John, it's been so great talking to you as always. And I really want to thank you for joining me on UNBIND. Thanks to the audience.
Keep leading. You're doing a great job, and we're thankful. We learn a lot. We fully support your mission and know that you're bringing a lot of good to the market.
Oh, well, that is amazing. Thank you. Thanks to everybody for listening, and we will see you soon. Appreciate it, John.